Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And today I want to teach you how to write good, emotional scenes. These are the moments that resonate with readers and audiences and stick with them long after they are done with the story. Those emotional scenes are the fulfilling culminations of so much work. And as a result, they are really hard to pull off! It's true. They are so hard to do right. It really takes a lot to write an emotional scene, and to be frank, there is no formula that guarantees a successful scene that pulls your audience's heartstrings in all the right ways. It's a complicated effort to build up the characters, the themes, the emotional stakes, the setting, and so much more to pull off the results that you want. But within every equation for crafting the perfect emotional scene, the one constant variable is time. The time necessary to build up to the moment, the time that you spend within said moment, and just this one variable alone is tricky enough. It happens way too often that writers just speed right on ahead to their emotional scenes, wanting to enjoy all that good, sweet payoff and reel in their readers instantly. This, however, comes from a misunderstanding that the quicker you get to the payoff, the more of it you get to have, and the better your story is going to be, and the more invested your audience is going to be. And writers who do this neither appreciate nor understand the necessary journey to make the payoff meaningful and earned. Now, as frustrating as this advice is going to be, please hear me out. When it comes to writing these emotional scenes, it's honestly something that you're going to have to play by gut. With practice, you'll know when it's the right time to initiate those moments. But to help you out with this, try measuring when the time is right. You should have emotional mile markers. These important and meaningful moments that signal to the readers that you are building up to something and that mark certain moments of character and plot progression. I think I can help this advice make more sense by providing some examples. So I will not go, though, into exhaustive detail about them because, well, spoilers for one thing. This is your spoiler warning, and you are free to check out these stories to dive deeper into these examples and get the full experience. And I highly recommend that. And the examples that I will be examining are Dalinar's redemption in Oathbringer, Klaus's first gift in the movie Klaus, and Anne and Sprig's conversation about their mothers in Season 2 of Amphibia. Now, I may be a stone-hearted fellow, someone who doesn't feel emotions all too easily, but that doesn't mean that I am beyond feeling, and it makes emotional moments that actually get to me all the more memorable, and has really helped me to understand what makes a good emotional moment. And one of the most powerful redemption moments, one of the most powerful emotional moments in any story that I have read or seen is Dalinar's moment of clarity and redemption in Brandon Sanderson's book, Oathbringer. This incredible instance where a villain becomes a hero is brilliantly set up, and anyone starting off with the first book, The Way of Kings, will never see it coming. This is because the long journey we take to this point is so well done. In The Way of Kings, Dalinar is portrayed as the most honorable man in the kingdom of Alethkar, and we have very little reason to doubt this because we are in his head and we see his struggles to remain honorable against all odds, his desire to understand others, including his enemies, and to even find peaceful resolutions to his problems, which is very un-Alethi. He makes heroic sacrifices, and he is a dad and a prince doing his best. Now, we do get hints about a darker past that he's had, but everyone treats it as though his misdeeds are just that, in the past. Dalinar only continues to grow in awesomeness throughout Words of Radiance, but that is all challenged in Oathbringer. The third book in the Stormlight Archive quickly introduces us to a young Dalinar, who is an absolutely brutal man and murdering mad lad. Oh my gosh, the Blackthorn is intense, and this clashes perfectly with the image that we have come to love of Dalinar. The book takes painstaking time to draw the comparisons between the two versions of the same man and show how, as a young husband and father, Dalinar's wife Evie tried to save him, and how he ultimately murdered her with his own hands and cruelty. This breaks Dalinar, and like a coward, he seeks to have his sins removed by magic. But instead, they are only pruned, meaning that he must face them again at a later time. When Dalinar finally confronts his past, it is before the face of the god who has guided his every action and groomed him to be the greatest killer the Cosmere has ever seen. One step remains in his transformation. Dalinar will give his grief and guilt to Odium. The god will take on all the blame and responsibility, freeing Dalinar and absolving him of all his crimes and sins. But Dalinar, alone, defenseless, surrounded by killers and a vengeful god upon the battlefield, stares a god in the eye and says, "You cannot have my pain." Dalinar willingly accepts that he is a murderer, a coward, a warlord, and in every respect, a dishonorable man who consciously made every bad decision he ever did. He owns it, and then vows that he will do better. The greatest killer in the Cosmere drops the sword and takes the first step towards redemption. And it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And it only works because we get to see the man that Dalinar was, the man Dalinar is, and the man he may become. His redemption is earned through 3 long books, and with the knowledge of who he is. And I have a personal rule when it comes to stories, that if a character is going to be redeemed, he or she is only redeemed in proportion to what they have done to damn themselves, and what they have then done to redeem themselves. So that means, for instance, that if someone's been a villain for about a year, then they have to undergo something that is the equivalent of that year's misdeeds in order to fully redeem themselves. And what I love about the 4th book, Rhythm of War, is that Dalinar continues to struggle towards his redemption. It is very real and very poignant. There is no one moment where he just ceases to be the man that he once was. His vow to do better means that he is in a constant struggle with himself to improve himself. And that is so real and relatable. My writing advice then from this story is that redemption is equal to the damnation. If the process towards redemption is too quick or too light, it is not convincing and therefore will not have the emotional payoff that you want it to have. Now for an example for the Christmas season. We have the Netflix movie Klaus. There's a moment in the film that gets me every time. When Klaus has Jesper take him to the home of the boy who had lost his sad, pathetic drawing, Klaus's old heart is touched by the boy's plight, and he has brought along a toy to make the child happier. After an anxious, hilarious dash through all kinds of traps surrounding the boy's house, Jesper delivers the toy. And before getting chased away, Klaus just barely rescues him from getting shot and eaten by dogs. But the old toy maker is quickly captivated by a new sight before him. The young boy discovers the toy and plays with it. And this might not sound like much, but when combined with the amazing music and the incredible animation, this scene is nothing short of beautiful. But there is another element to this scene that makes it so emotionally perfect. Pay attention. Throughout the entire movie thus far, there is not a single genuine smile up until this point. There are plenty of laughs on the part of the audience, believe you me, but there's no moment where any of the characters smile in a way that isn't ironic, mocking, or selfish. The nameless boy is the first one to genuinely, truly crack a happy smile and giggle and joyfully laugh. In a movie that is just over an hour and a half long, we don't get to this moment until we are nearly a third of the way through. And for a movie about Christmas, we get our first taste of the Christmas magic really far into the story. The use of time is therefore perfect because we are conditioned to Jesper's way of thinking and the ridiculous antics of Smearensburg, that when we are presented with real happiness, it catches us totally off guard. The ensuing flood of emotions matches the scene perfectly because this scene is where the entire story and the characters begin to change, embodying the message of the movie, that one good deed inspires another. All of these elements combine for a truly memorable, emotional moment. But definitely note the dedication of time to set up just this one scene. Now let's have a look at another emotional moment that legit makes me cry every time I watch it. Anne and Sprig on the balcony in Amphibia Season 2. Holy dang. This scene is great as a standalone episode and as a standalone moment. But if you rewatch the entire series after watching the episode Hopping Mall, it enhances the entire show. I kid you not! One of the things I love about the show Amphibia is how it subtly builds up themes throughout its fast-paced, wacky storytelling. The show's main theme is friendship, and how relationships can be toxic and how they can be healthy. One of those relationships that the show focuses on is family. We get a lot of the family element with the Planters, while with Anne, it's only snippets because she is on another world, and we only get to see her family through flashbacks, and flashbacks are used sparingly or for gags. What we do know is that Anne is very proud of her Thai heritage. Her family owns a restaurant and she loves working there with them. She does not, however, love how her mother is always harping on her to work harder, to be dedicated, and get her head out of the clouds. Anne is just a free-spirited girl. Anne also holds it against her mother that she would not let her explore Thailand and try out the local cuisine. But that all being said, Anne obviously loves her family, and she is visibly upset when Sasha forces her to ditch the family birthday party her parents have planned for her and joins Sasha and Marcy for some good old shoplifting. Now, no relationship with a parent is perfect, and that is fine, because all relationships require work and constant love to make them work. But where we really get into this familial relationship and the amazing, emotional, relatable scene that happens later in the episode Hopping Mall, we must understand what is going on. Now, under the prospects of finally returning to Earth, Anne decides that she should get a souvenir for her mother. So she and Sprig go searching for the perfect item, something to do with butterflies, something to do with tea, and something that is an antique. And luckily, they find an antique teapot beautifully decorated in butterflies. The only problem is that the teapot is a prize in a demolition shopping derby, and Anne must fight a brutish newt named Priscilla and her adorable daughter Pearl for the prize. Summoning all her skills as a school delinquent, Anne guides herself and Sprig to victory! And I'll say this, it's pretty funny to watch Priscilla the Killer reveal herself to be just a big softie as she tries to not hit Polly in the middle of the competition. But it all leads to a conversation that she and Anne have after Anne wins the contest. And finding out that Priscilla's mother was the one who made the teapot, Anne gives it to her. And in return, Pearl gives Anne a decorated butterfly. Later that night, Sprig wakes up from a nightmare to find Anne hanging out on the balcony, thinking about her mom. With Sprig prompting her, Anne talks about her mother, describing her as a kind, strict, goofy, but loving woman. And even though Anne doesn't say it out loud, you can tell how much she loves her mother when she says that she would give anything to hear her mother sing just another silly Thai love song again. And then Sprig confesses that he never knew his mom, and asks if it is possible to miss someone you never met. The unspoken answer between the two best friends is a resounding yes. And for a show about relationships, this scene says it all. The importance of loving family ties and friendships where you can speak your heart and others listen to you. But this scene only works the way that it does because we have spent a season and a half building up to just this one moment. And if you rewatch the entire series after this, it is clear that the writers wanted a scene like this to showcase the message of their show. It seriously enhances the viewing experience of the first season, and you realize that even after all the adventures that are had with Marcy and Sasha, Anne could never have had this moment with either of them, but she can have it with Sprig, because of all the quality time that she has had with him and the time that we have spent with their friendship. powerful moments like these are earned. It takes time to flesh out your characters and their relationships. You have to slowly and with a deft hand build up to them. It is hard. I will tell you this. It is hard. And I will also tell you that it is far easier to write a forced emotional moment. But I can also tell you this, that if you do so, it holds no emotions whatsoever. So, coming back to where we started, the constant variable in the equation to any emotional scene that you are writing is time. Time is key. Now, I could bring up other examples like Rayla and Callum confessing to each other in The Dragon Prince Season 3, Nezuko saving Tanjiro at the end of episode 19 of Demon Slayer, or Taichi asking out Inaban at the end of Kokoro Connect, or even Wit telling Kaladin the story of the dog and the dragon in Rhythm of War. And if you want me to go into detail about those stories or any other great emotional moments that you know of, then please let me know. Let me know down in the comment sections. That way I can look at it. We can glean some more examples from these moments of how we can better craft and write great scenes. Because it really does help out sometimes to look at those moments that have really impacted you as you've read or watched or listened to something. If those moments have touched your heart, it's good to break them down and understand why. And that will help you to, in turn, write your own amazing emotional scenes. So please, once again, let me know down in the comments which ones you want me to do, if any, and we'll get on that. So until then, if you want any more writing advice, please check out our podcast, Camille's Harem, found on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, the works. We have writing exercises for you over at our Pinterest page, and we would love to have discussions with you over at our subreddit. Links for all those sites are in the description. And if you would like to support us, please give us a like, subscribe, or even check out my book, Sandwich Desperados. But beyond that, thank you for joining us on this adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, tschüss.